Welcome to our podcast, Not a Typical Podcast. And today we have a guest with us who's Jo Blake. She's a bestie of ours, a friend who's really journeyed this path with us. I recently moved back from Joburg a year ago almost. And I think even though we've been friends so long, I've spoken to you about what it's been like in terms of just navigating this world with our son. If you're not sure what we're talking about, have a look at our previous episodes just to get a bit more context. But Jo's here today and she's visiting, so I thought I'd grab her and just ask her a few questions by putting her in the limelight. So Jo, looking at what you know, and really not a textbook version, what is your perspective or what is your view of what autism is?
Sure. I won't lie. I think when you broke the news about Asher being autistic, it was like a shock for me because I was like, oh, snap. You know, like, what does that actually mean in the bigger scheme of things? And I think what surprised me the most was how little I actually knew about autism and how it can show up in different people differently. I mean, now I can talk about the fact that you can go from non-verbal to verbal, and, you know, the fact that he can pick out like themes or colors and he gets used to that one type of thing a certain way. And I knew none of that when you said that to me. And so I suppose most humanly way I can answer it is I thought of it as a disability. Like, oh, shucks. I mean, when we were growing up and any kid had some sort of a disability, it was like the special child.
Yes.
And it's taken a lot of education on my part as your friend to step into your world and go like, what does that actually mean for you?
Yeah, no, I think, and I really appreciate how much you've put in to just educate yourself. It hasn't been easy. I think there's been adjustments that we've had to even make in terms of how our friendship plays out, from being quite free to just do what we want to do. And how does that feel for you? And what kind of adjustments have you had to make to accommodate us?
I won't lie. When I think of Asher, as much as his brain works differently to other kids, I still recognize him as he's a toddler of 4 years. And like, yes, there are dramatic differences in how he maybe shows up, but there are also such big similarities. And I go, but he's just being a toddler, he's just being 4, or he's just being 3 or 2 or whatever. So sure, you know, kind of freedom.
To explore, we've had
to adjust, but you do that as a parent anyway. You know, so whether he had autism or not, it wouldn't be a thing for me.
Thank you. And in your opinion, what differentiates him when you actually interact? How do you see him different?
I think for me, the most stark thing is when you told me, I think I cried that day, when you were like, he's nonverbal, he's not speaking, he's not hitting those milestones. And I think for me as a mom, that hits home, and I'm even getting emotional now, but just as a mother, you get to that point where you're wishing and hoping to hear them say like mama or whatever the case maybe is. And I had to sit with that and go like, shit, you know, like, how does that feel for you? Excuse my French. But I think that for me is the biggest thing. And so when I hear him say words now, it's like huge. Like, that's huge. Massive for me. I mean, I was screaming, running around the house when you sent me that one video, and I showed Mackenzie and I showed Summer, and like, we're all in it, you know, we're rooting for him. But I think that for me is the biggest kind of standout, is that only now we're hearing his voice. Yes. Whereas with other kids, you'd hear it much younger.
No, for sure. I love your perspective on things and just how positive you've been and just the support you've offered us. And I think when I reflect, I think there's a bit of guilt where I can't show up in our friendship as I used to. No, it's a big thing for me. So it's like you never want your friendships to feel like you're non-committal or you don't have space in your life for them. And at times it did feel that way for me. Where I had to really say, okay, this is Asher, this is his needs, but how can I work around that to make space for my friendship? And going through therapy this year, yes, I finally took the plunge. The therapist asked me one thing, and she's like, what are the things you do for self-care? And I couldn't name anything. And at the time, she asked me, well, what are the things that you really enjoy? And I was like, see my friends. Like, that actually is something that I love. And I intentionally have made that effort to say, I know that things are tough. I know Asher needs a lot of support. I know he has anxiety when I'm away, so that's always something I try and balance. But then what does it mean in terms of intentionally making that self-care time for myself?
100%.
So you've been amazing from that perspective, and just accommodating times. When can I, when can't I? And I don't want you to ever feel that that's not noticed.
No, 100%. And I think, I mean, you touch on such a big thing. I think as women, we carry this like title of motherhood, like this, you know, kind of badge of honor, which it damn well is. I mean, we're bringing human beings into the world. But at the same time, I think society places so much of an expectation on you to almost forget who you are and what you were before that. And I'm not saying that, you know, you must just, oh, well, the kid's here now, so carry on with your life. Of course, there are going to be adjustments, but I think the self-care aspect is so pertinent, especially in the construct of your family, like with your relationship with Rory. Everything has had to adjust. The caregivers around you have had to adjust. And I think the most beautiful thing that I've seen, that I'm so inspired by, is just how much you've both, as mother and father to Asher, given of yourselves and adjusted, but to a place where you've also got to be reminded that, hey, there's still the two of you.
No, I love that about
yourself.
you. You constantly are like,
yes,
parents, you can take nights off.
Yes, he won't die.
You'll be fine.
He'll be fine.
You need a friend like that. Honestly, you do. So I think for me, I just want to acknowledge you in our lives, and like even up to the gifts you've brought Asher have all been aligned to his development, his needs, and just how you see us. And I know for you, because of who you are, it seems probably quite natural.
Very.
But there's been friendships we've lost. There's been people who we don't actually interact to see, and those even extend to family members. So acknowledging that you've embraced us, you've embraced what is unique about our family unit now, and the accommodations that we've had to make. I've seen you help lure Asher into bath time with crazy ways of doing things, and having to deal with the 4-year-old who's not yet toilet trained. So I won't even take you down that path of what Joe has had to do.
It was fun. It was loads and loads of fun. I also think, just on the topic of losing friends and family, I went through a cancer diagnosis, and I'm not saying it's anywhere close to your reality right now.
But it's a moment. It's like a life-changing...
The response that there were people in my inner circle and family members, their response was...
withdrawal.
Yeah, like I can't, it's too much for me, as in them, to process, handle, manage, and they stepped away. And that can hurt. I mean, it hurt me. But at the end of the day, I think for me, what was so clear was, who was there, you know, in the trenches with me? And yes, they're few, but they're quality. And so I think there's a gift in that in any case. And to kind of let those people go with love, and that might be something that they can't process and can't adjust to, or whatever the case may be, and each to their own.
Absolutely. You know? And I love that thought of just releasing with love, because you can't blame somebody if they're unable to actually just have that emotional... I want to call it maturity to be able to be with you in that space, which I think has been hard. But I appreciate you.
I love you.
I appreciate you coming on here and just sharing about us and encouraging us to do this in the first place.
Yes!
Finally, and just making, you know, advocating. I think because now you've educated yourself. I think you're easily able to recognize the next family or person 100%. That maybe could benefit from even having a conversation with us. So thank you.
You're welcome. And my girls were educated along too. So how they process that and understand it is, I can see the compassion that comes through when there are other kids around that may be different. And it's so necessary, especially in this day and age, for kids to understand that aspect. Because I think as when we were growing up, you know, just keep going, regardless of what's happening around you or who you meet along the way, or, oh, that's a special kid, and you can kind of keep it moving. There's no pause and education around why or
let's
what.
Embrace
or,
it.
Exactly.
Let's adjust.
100%. And can I just say, like, a Mackenzie and a Summer see Asher as Asher. They don't see him as someone different, special, whatever the case may be. That's just who he is. And that's what I love the most. So that's been a gift as well.
We are so fortunate to have such good friends and support around us. And so also use this as encouragement for you in terms of your support system.
Yep.
Doesn't need to always be somebody who has got another autistic child or anything like that. Sometimes people are just able to shift gears and just like meet you where you're at. So thank you, Jo, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll be back soon for our next episode. And take care, everyone.
Cheers.